Is this man washed? Genuine question. Is he washed? Because everybody loves to say McGregor looked great in sparring. You know, I've been hearing that since fucking 2006. But sparring isn't fighting, and recently McGregor hasn't looked great. Actually, I'll take that back. What I will say is nobody gives him credit for the second Poirier fight. He did land a lot on Poirier. I think he just expected it to hurt Poirier more than it did. And then before you know it, obviously the calf kits came in and the whole fight changed. But his boxing did look sharp against Poirier. And yeah, nobody talks about that. Maybe in the third fight, not so much. But in the second fight, it did. That was 2021. So it wasn't that long of a time ago. What I will say before I get onto this video, obviously he has broke his leg since then. And ultimately none of us know how that's going to affect him. Anderson Silva came back and he wasn't the same man. You know, he never was. So there's a good chance that even if Conor isn't washed and he still has the potential to compete in the highest level, that leg break might have just solidified it. So, you know, he might not have any foot. You know, it could be a disaster is my point. But this is assuming that it isn't a disaster and he at least comes back. I'm working off of McGregor in that second Poirier fight. If the leg break has completely changed him and fucked him over, then obviously that's a different story. But yeah, we're working off McGregor in the second Poirier fight. If he comes back even half as good as what he was, I think he could. These are his most winnable fights. This is the most realistic path to the belt for Conor McGregor, right? Ultimately, do I think he gets the belt? No, but this is how I would. This is the only path or the clearest path that I could see where he could actually get that lightweight belt again. I could make a separate video for the welterweight belt, but honestly, I would be scraping the barrel at that point. I think he's just too small for welterweight. But anyway, let's start. So obviously, no surprise here, but Conor McGregor, when he returns, his first fight should be Michael Chandler. Now, I think Michael Chandler is tailor-made for McGregor, right? He's a stocky, shorter lightweight with a big overhand right that likes to march forward. Conor's made a career off sniping these guys. He's, you know, Chad Mendes-esque, although Chad Mendes was like 5'4". I'm not actually sure how tall Michael Chandler is, so I don't know how the height difference is going to look. On the Ultimate Fighter, it didn't look that bad. So, but working off the fact that Conor's whole thing is sniping stocky wrestlers with overhand rights, that's kind of what Michael Chandler is. Obviously, it's to be seen whether he will actually wrestle in the fight. Some people think that he won't. To be honest, if he goes in there and swings it with Conor McGregor and gets knocked out, I genuinely think he will gain a lot of new fans. A lot of these Conor fanboys that don't pay attention to the sport unless Conor's fighting, they'll be like, oh, this Michael Chandler guy's sick. If he goes in there and beats him, yeah, it's like a nice feather in the cap. But does it get you... I suppose it does get you closer to a title shot. If you beat Conor, they probably give Chandler a fucking title shot at that point. So, but do I think Conor can beat Chandler? Yes, I do. If I had to give an honest prediction for this fight, I'm probably 50-50 on it. Probably slightly leaning towards Conor, but you know, Chandler looked good in that first round against Poirier, and he did hurt Gaethje a few times, and that worries me for Conor. You know what I mean? But if the Conor that fought Poirier in 2021, bold, nice Conor, if he shows up, I think he finishes Chandler. So that's what we will assume. Conor McGregor comes back, fights Michael Chandler, maybe at UFC 300. Nobody fucking knows at this point. But comes back, fights Chandler and beats him. Let's assume that. And I think his next fight, I think he should go back and get that Poirier rematch. Ultimately, this is a hard fight, but Poirier has just been knocked out. Like, properly went stiff, hit the canvas, knocked out. And he's in his mid-30s, you know what I mean? It does count for something, getting knocked out, right? I'm not going to bank on Poirier's chin being shot because I don't think that's the case. I think pretty much anybody goes out from a Justin Gaethje head kick. But again, in that second fight, Conor was piecing him up at some points. You know, Dustin even came out and said that one time he really rocked Dustin, and Dustin said if he would have swarmed in with a few extra shots, Dustin would have been in big trouble. But Conor didn't really seem to recognise that the shot hurt him as bad as it did. But yeah, Dustin Poirier coming off a loss to Gaethje. Dustin's already said multiple times he would take that fourth fight. Why wouldn't you, right? And if Conor comes back and beats Chandler and then says, listen, I want Poirier, which I doubt he would. I think he would aim higher than that, try and miss Poirier altogether. He doesn't want to fight Poirier again, if he can help it, I assume. But of course, Conor's a competitor. He'll probably want to get that win back at some point. So why not straight after Chandler? Poirier's already talking about retiring or moving up to welterweight for a couple and then dipping. He's made plenty of money. Let's get, you know, if you're Conor, getting that Poirier win back, like beating Chandler, a lot of people won't give him credit for. they'll say, yeah, but it's Michael Chandler, whatever, right? But Michael Chandler competes with these top guys. If he can beat Chandler, he can beat Poirier, in my opinion. Although, do I pick him against Poirier? Absolutely not. I think Poirier pieces him up again. I think he's just too good, too much of an MMA fighter now. Conor's still a little bit one-dimensional in his game. Although, yeah, he was piecing him up in that second fight, caught him a fair few times, so I would like to see this fight again. If he can get past Dustin Poirier, so now he's beat Michael Chandler. Let's say he TKOs him in the second round, right? Let's say he fights Poirier. Do I see him finishing Poirier? Probably not. So if you beat him, but then do I see it going 5 rounds to a decision? Not really, you know what I mean? So let's say he finishes Poirier as well. Maybe a TKO to Poirier, 3rd, 4th round, late in the fight. I don't know. I don't ultimately think he gets past Poirier, but I want to put this in here as like an optional rematch. But let's say you skip Poirier completely, right? So let's say you go Michael Chandler, and then he gets on the mic. Who he will most likely call out, not Poirier, but this man, the other Justin Gaethje. I think he will call out Justin Gaethje. They'll have the BMF fight. I know Islam is calling for Justin now at 299. He wants to defend his title against Justin. I think even if that happens and Islam beats Justin, I think Conor might still want this fight. I don't think Justin will have the BMF title on the line when he fights Islam, so they can do it for this fight. They can headline a pay-per-view. Dana's always worried about putting Conor as the headliner above title fights, you know, the integrity of the sport and stuff like that. This solves that issue. Just like you had a pay-per-view headlined by Poirier and Gaethje, you can have it headlined by Conor and Gaethje. So I think it works. Put the BMF title on the line. Do I think he wins this fight? No, I don't. I think this is probably his hardest fight. I think Gaethje's just too violent, hits too hard. Does get caught a lot. Is a little bit more patient now. A few years ago, I would give Conor a better chance. But Gaethje's just like... I know when you look at this picture, right, they both look like lightweights. But Gaethje in the cage, how he stands, he just looks much bigger. Like, Gaethje's got the height and maybe the reach and the attributes of a lightweight. But it's almost like his fucking how he moves is like a welterweight. You know, his shots seem to like blunt. You know, some guys are sharp strikers. Like McGregor, he'll catch you on the front two knuckles on the chin and put you out. And some fighters like Gaethje, Song Yadong is a good example as well. They hit you and it's just like boom. You know what I mean? It's like blunt. It's literally like you're getting hit with a baseball bat or something. So, but Chandler hurt Gaethje, and we've seen Gaethje hurt a few times. So can Conor do it? He can. He's got the ability to do it. And as I said at the beginning of the video, he has looked okay in sparring. So maybe he can. But let's assume that he fights Gaethje and gets the BMF. Now this next fight is going to be the title shot. I believe he's going to come back, try and fight Chandler. He's going to, he will fight Chandler. He's going to try and fight Gaethje after, and then I think he's going to go for the belt. Poirier in there as well if he wants to take that fight. But ultimately, the next title fight, I'm not going to disrespect your time of watching this video by putting Islam in it, right? I don't think there's any world Conor beats Islam. Not now, not after the leg break, not after everything. I think you can give Conor 10 shots at Islam. I don't think he beats him. That might be a little bit objective to say about MMA because anything can happen and all that kind of stuff. But if I had to put money on it, right? If somebody put a gun to my head and said Conor and Islam fight 10 times, does Conor get him once? I don't think so. So for this to happen, right? If Islam fights Gaethje and beats Gaethje, then Gaethje goes and fights Conor. Islam will defend again, and I believe that will be the Charles Oliveira rematch. Basically, long story short, Charles Oliveira has to beat Islam for this to happen. But for the belt, Conor McGregor and Charles Oliveira is the only guy that can hold a lightweight belt that Conor has any chance of beating. I would pick Olives over Conor, of course, but Conor can hit hard. He has still got his accuracy, hopefully after the leg break that isn't completely gone. And Charles Oliveira does get caught. He gets dropped a lot. Conor's not going to follow him down to the canvas, so ultimately Charles can recover, but Conor's very proud of his ground and pound. You know what I mean? It's an aspect of his game he always says that he never gets credit for, how accurate his ground and pound is. He doesn't miss shots on the mat. You know, he finishes fighters efficiently. You know, every shot lands. So I don't know if he would try and finish Olives or if he would just tell him to get back up. With Nate Diaz, obviously, he told him to get back up. So then eventually he kind of thought, fuck this, and he tried to kind of stack on him and land a few shots to kind of bounce the back of Nate's head off the canvas. It can work, you know what I mean? If he can land a few good shots on Olives while he's down without getting an arm wrapped up or without getting a triangle synced on him, or even just getting locked into full guard and then being in half guard and getting swept, because if you start grappling with Olives, Conor McGregor's grappling is underrated, but you don't want to be on the mat with Olives if you Conor at all. So a few left hands, hopefully, one of them wobbles him and he doesn't go straight to his back. He kind of is upright for a second, maybe tries to cover up, and Conor can clip him again and drop him. But yeah, I don't think Conor beats Charles Oliveira, but I think this is the most likely path to the belt. So I think he beats Chandler. He then either fights Poirier while Gaethje fights Islam and gets that win back, or he just waits for Gaethje to fight Islam, or Gaethje doesn't even fight Islam. Conor and Gaethje just fight after Chandler, and Islam defends against Charles next. Either way, Charles Oliveira, the whole point of this video, right? McGregor has to beat Chandler, and Charles Oliveira has to be champion when he gets his title shot. Even if he beats Chandler and they give him, and Charles Oliveira wins the belt. Here's a thought: if Charles Oliveira beats Islam and Conor beats Chandler, they will make that fight, because Charles Oliveira and Conor have spoke multiple times about fighting. And when Conor went in on that third fight against Dustin, he had the Brazilian mouthpiece in, because Charles was the champion at that point, so he wanted to call Charles Oliveira out. So yeah, that's something to think about. If Charles Oliveira beats Islam, they're not going to be looking to do a trilogy with Islam straight away. They're going to throw Conor in there if he's coming off a win over Chandler. But yeah, ultimately, that's my thoughts. Do I actually think Conor McGregor ever holds a belt again? No, I don't. I'm kind of worried about him against Chandler, to be honest. But let me know what you think. If there's anybody else that you think he could beat in the top 6, top 5. I had a look at the rankings. I think people like Fiziev and stuff like that, I don't think he will want any problems with those guys. They're ultimately not big enough names for him to fight. And yeah, Chandler seems to say that he cannot come back against anybody but Chandler. It's almost like in the contract when they signed to fight, when they signed to do the Ultimate Fighter, he almost made it sound like Conor can't come back and fight anybody else. If he's going to fight in the UFC, his next fight is Michael Chandler, whether he likes it or not. So if he gets through Chandler, maybe he can just jump the line and get straight to Olives if Olives beats Islam and gets the belt. But that's a whole different kettle of fish. It's a whole different story. I don't even think Olives beats Islam, unfortunately. I think Islam's going to hold that belt until he wants to drop it. So, yeah. Hypothetical video, boys, but this is Conor McGregor's path to the title. Yeah, thank you very much for watching, boys. I'm streaming every day at the minute, so if you see me live, pop your head in and say hello. I will be live on Saturday for the Leon and Colby card as well. Stacked card, great fights. I'll be there from the very first fight until the main event. So yeah, come pop in stream, say hello. If you like the video, like the video. If you like the video, subscribe. I appreciate you all very much. Yeah, see you in stream, or see you on the next video in a couple of days. My name's Harry. I talk about fights. Bang, there's a picture of Jorge Masvidal with a fucking hula skirt on.